Today we delve into the abyss to uncover the stories of 10 teenage girls whose crimes shattered the very concept of innocence. Their actions left families broken, communities in mourning, and the world asking one haunting question: why? These are the cases that defy understanding. Yeah, this is the countdown of the most unthinkable crimes. 5. The Babysitter Secret, Erica Mae Butts and Shanita Cunningham. In November 2009, the air in Summerville, South Carolina, was thick with the promise of autumn. For 3-year-old Serenity Richardson, this should have been a time of joy. A short visit to her godmother, Erica Mae Butts, while her mother navigated a stressful move. It was meant to be a safe harbor, a place of trust. But beneath the surface of this ordinary home, a monstrous cruelty was festering. Butts and her roommate, Shanita Latrice Cunningham, were not caregivers, they were torturers. Over a span of just a few days, Serenity was subjected to a hellish ordeal of abuse, so brutal it defied comprehension. The trigger? Potty training accidents. The weapons were mundane, a belt, a plastic coat hanger. But the fury behind them was not. Investigators later described the injuries as layered, a forensic term that paints a horrifying picture. Old bruises hidden beneath new ones, a timeline of pain inflicted on a toddler who could not fight back, could not run, and could not understand why the people who were supposed to love her were causing such agony. On November 3rd, the tiny engine of Serenity's heart gave out. When paramedics arrived, they found a scene that would haunt them for years. Her body was a map of suffering. The coroner would later call it one of the worst cases of child abuse he had ever witnessed. At their sentencing, a bizarre scene unfolded. As the judge handed down life sentences without parole, both women collapsed. Butts dropped to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Cunningham fainted outright. Their dramatic display of grief stood in stark, ironic contrast to the silent, lonely suffering they had inflicted on a child who trusted them, a little girl who went for a visit and never came home. 4. The Slenderman. Stabbing. Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier. Most of us know Slenderman as a digital ghost story, a creepypasta monster born from an online forum. But for two 12-year-old girls in Waukesha, Wisconsin, the line between fiction and reality didn't just blur, it vanished entirely. Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier didn't just believe in Slenderman, they served him. They lived in a world where his tall, faceless figure was as real as the school bell, and they believed with the fervent certainty of a zealot that to prove their devotion and earn a place in his mythical mansion, they needed to offer him a sacrifice. That sacrifice was their best friend, Peyton Leutner. The planning was meticulous, discussed in whispers during sleepovers and in school hallways. The execution was methodical. After a night of painting nails and eating donuts, they lured Peyton into the woods under the pretense of playing hide and seek. In a clearing, the fantasy became a bloody reality. Morgan held Peyton down while Anissa encouraged her. Then Morgan plunged a kitchen knife into her friend, not once, not twice, but 19 times. Narrator, slowly for emphasis. Then they walked away, believing the rules of their dark fantasy would slow her bleeding. They told her to lie still. They left her for dead in the dirt, packed their backpacks with snacks and a knife, and began the long walk to the Nicolet National Forest, where they were sure Slenderman waited. Miraculously, Peyton summoned a superhuman will to live. She crawled, bleeding from wounds that missed a major artery by a millimeter, to a bike path where a cyclist found her. Her survival is a testament to her strength. The girls, when caught, were chillingly calm. Morgan told investigators, "It was weird. I felt no remorse." Psychological evaluations revealed a terrifying landscape within Morgan's mind. Early onset schizophrenia, complete with vivid hallucinations of Slenderman and other creatures. She wasn't just a murderer, she was a prisoner in a nightmare of her own mind. And she dragged her friend Anissa and Peyton into it with her. Both were found not guilty by reason of mental illness. Their lives and their victims forever altered by a monster that never was. 3. The Rejection killing, Tia Wimberly. The hallways of Dillard High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, are a river of teenage life, laughter, gossip, the rustle of backpacks. But on November 12, 2008, the river froze. The sound that silenced it was a single gunshot. 15-year-old Amanda Collette, a bright and popular marching band member, lay bleeding on the floor. Standing over her was her once best friend, 15-year-old Tia Wimberly. This was not a random act of school violence. This was a calculated killing born from a friendship turned toxic. T, who identified as gay, had developed an intense romantic obsession with Amanda. When Amanda, who did not share these feelings, began to distance herself, Tia's world crumbled. The rejection festered, twisting into a deep-seated rage. In the weeks leading up to the shooting, Tia's pain was on full display for those who knew how to look. Cryptic online posts, self-harm, and even direct threats that a fellow student reported to a teacher. Warnings that were tragically ignored. That morning, Tia had packed a .22 caliber handgun into her backpack. She walked through inactive metal detectors and found her target. Witnesses reported a brief, tense exchange before Tia raised the weapon and fired a single point-blank shot into Amanda's chest. In the aftermath, a shaking Tia called 911 from a nearby restaurant, her words forming a haunting confession. "I just shot my friend. I didn't mean to kill her. I just wanted her to hurt like I hurt." It was a plea that laid bare an ocean of teenage anguish, but it could not undo the irreversible act. T was sentenced to 25 years in prison, a permanent end to a temporary pain, and a stark lesson in the devastating consequences of unchecked emotional turmoil. 2. The I Don't Like Mondays. Sniper Brenda Spencer. January the 29th, 1979 was a Monday. At Grover Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego, children gathered outside waiting for the school day to begin. The morning routine was shattered by the crack of rifle fire. The children scattered, screaming as bullets rained down on them from a house across the street. The shooter was 16-year-old Brenda Spencer, firing a .22 caliber rifle she had received as a Christmas gift from her father. Her home was a cluttered, impoverished place where she and her father slept on a single mattress on the floor. She later alleged abuse, a claim he denied. But the gift of a gun to a troubled, suicidal teen was a catastrophic failure of judgment. For over 6 hours, Brenda held police at bay, creating a standoff that captivated and horrified the nation. During this time, she spoke to a reporter from the San Diego Union Tribune. When asked why she had committed such a monstrous act, her reply was as simple as it was soulless. "I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day." 2 men, Principal Burton Ragg and Custodian Mike Sushar, died as heroes, shot while trying to protect the students. 8 children and a police officer were wounded. Brenda's infamous quote would later inspire the Boomtown Rats' hit song, immortalizing her apathy in rock and roll history. Her case became a grim benchmark, forcing America to confront the terrifying nexus of untreated mental illness, easy access to firearms, and school safety. Brenda Spencer was sentenced to 25 years to life and has been repeatedly denied parole. A permanent reminder of the day a teenager decided to liven up a Monday with murder. 1. The Mother-Daughter Murder Pact. Nicole Kacinskas. To the outside world, the home in Nashua, New Hampshire, was a picture of normalcy. But inside, a digital romance was brewing a deadly plot. 16-year-old Nicole Kacinskas met 18-year-old William Billy Sullivan online, and their connection was instant and all-consuming. They talked of love, of a future together, and of the one person standing in their way, Nicole's mother, Jean Domenico. Jean was a devoted mother, a paraprofessional at a local elementary school, known for her kindness. She saw the dangerous obsession in her daughter's relationship and refused to allow Nicole to be emancipated. To the lovesick teens, her protection felt like a prison sentence. Their resentment festered, metastasizing from teenage rebellion into homicidal intent. In August 2003, Billy traveled to New Hampshire. Their first attempts to kill Jean were almost farcically inept, trying to poison her coffee creamer, attempting to ignite the home's oil tank. But their determination was real. On August 6th, their sinister plan culminated. As Jean returned home from work, Billy confronted her. After a heated argument, he bludgeoned her with a baseball bat and, when she was incapacitated, stabbed her to death. Nicole, complicit in the planning, helped cover up the crime and establish alibis. The community was shattered. How could a daughter be involved in the brutal murder of her own mother? Nicole eventually pleaded guilty to a second-degree murder and testified against Billy, receiving a sentence of 35 years to life. In a surprising turn, a judge suspended the remainder of her sentence in 2025, making her eligible for parole after 22 years served. It was a controversial end to a case that remains a chilling example of how teenage love, when poisoned by manipulation, can lead to the ultimate betrayal. And on number 6, the Bathtub Girls, Mississauga, Ontario, is a place of quiet suburbia. In 2003, it was the home of two teenage sisters, just 15 and 16 years old. They were bright, ambitious, and honor students. They were also cold-blooded killers who saw their mother as a financial obstacle. Linda Anderson was a single mother battling alcoholism and depression. She struggled to provide, and her daughters grew to resent her for it. They coveted the lives of their more affluent friends and fixated on a solution: their mother's $133,000 life insurance policy. In chat logs and journals, they plotted her death, joking about it with classmates and studying crime shows for tips. On January 18, 2003, they put their plan into motion. They fed their mother a cocktail of vodka and Tylenol, 3 pills, rendering her heavily sedated. They then guided her into a bathtub for a soak. What happened next was an act of intimate, calculated evil. One sister held Linda's head underwater while the other stood watch. They waited. They made sure. And then, with their mother dead in the tub, they did something that chills the blood. They cleaned up, and then they went out for milkshakes with friends, building their alibi with terrifying normalcy. They nearly succeeded. Linda's death was ruled an accidental drowning. For almost a year, they lived with their secret, waiting for the insurance money. But the darkness they carried could not be contained. One of the sisters, unraveling at a party, bragged about the murder. The police reopened the case, uncovering the digital trail of their plot. Because they were minors, their identities were protected. They were given the maximum youth sentence, 10 years with only 6 served in custody. They have since been released with new identities, their debt to society deemed paid. But the question remains: can someone who calmly drowns her own mother ever truly be rehabilitated, or does that darkness simply learn to hide better? 7. The perfect murder of a best friend. Rachel Schoaf and Sheila Eddy. In the halls of their West Virginia high school, Rachel Schoaf, Sheila Eddy, and Skylar Neese were an inseparable trio. They laughed together, shared secrets, and posed for pictures. But beneath the surface, a sinister current was pulling 2 of them away. The reason was as trivial as it was terrifying. Rachel later told police, "We just didn't like her anymore." And that was enough for murder. For weeks, Rachel and Sheila plotted. They discussed it at school, their conversations hidden in plain sight. On the night of July 5, 2012, Sheila invited Skylar to sneak out for a late-night drive. Skylar, trusting her best friends, climbed out her bedroom window and into the car. Rachel was waiting in the back seat. In the trunk, kitchen knives, bleach, a shovel. They drove to a secluded spot in the Pennsylvania woods. As they walked into a clearing, the mood shifted. On a count of 3, Rachel and Sheila turned on their friend, stabbing her repeatedly. Skylar, fighting for her life, begged and screamed, but they showed no mercy. She was stabbed over 50 times. They then joined the search parties, hugging Skylar's devastated parents, sharing her missing poster on social media, and lying to police with stunning composure. For months, they played the part of grieving best friends perfectly, but the weight of their secret was a poison. Rachel, consumed by guilt, suffered a psychological breakdown and was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. There, she finally confessed, leading police to Skylar's remains. Her testimony sealed Shilia's fate. One received a 30-year sentence, the other life with the possibility of parole. Their crime stands as one of the most cold-blooded betrayals in modern history. A stark warning that sometimes the people you love most are the ones you should fear. 8. The Sister's Keeper. Claire Miller. What silent storm rages in the mind of a 14-year-old girl that would lead her to the bedroom of her helpless sister? This is not a story of rage or a heated argument. It is a story of a darkness so profound, not even experts can fully chart its depths. Claire Miller was a freshman at a prestigious private school. Her 19-year-old sister, Helen, had cerebral palsy. She was nonverbal, used a wheelchair, and was entirely dependent on her family for every need. She was the embodiment of innocence and vulnerability. On a cold February night in 2021, Claire walked into that bedroom with a large knife. As Helen slept, tucked safely under her covers, Claire stabbed her. The act was silent, brutal, and final. Then Claire did something equally confounding. She called 911. Her voice was shaky but clear as she told the dispatcher, "I killed my sister." When police arrived, they found Claire outside, crying, her pajama pants stained with her sister's blood. She repeated, "I stabbed my sister." I couldn't stop. The family from the outside was loving and stable. There were no red flags of abuse, but Claire was living in a private hell. Court records revealed she heard voices, suffered from psychosis, and believed reality was a simulation. She pleaded guilty but mentally ill to third-degree murder. Her case forces us to confront an impossible question. How does society administer justice when the killer is a child and the real culprit is a broken mind? One family lost 2 daughters that night, one to death and the other to the labyrinth of the justice system. 9. The girl who killed for a boyfriend. Tyler Witt. Joanne Witt was an accomplished engineer, a single mother who loved her 14-year-old daughter, Tyler, fiercely. When she discovered Tyler was in a sexual relationship with a 19-year-old unemployed man named Stephen Culver, she did what any responsible parent would do. She forbade the relationship and, upon finding explicit diary entries, went to the police to report statutory rape. In the twisted world of Tyler and Stephen, this protective act was a declaration of war. They saw Joanne not as a mother, but as a jailer. Their solution was a murder-suicide pact, a dark fantasy where they would be together in death. On June 11, 2009, Tyler crushed sleeping pills into her mother's drink. Once Joanne was unconscious, she let Stephen into the house. He crept into the bedroom and stabbed Joanne more than 20 times. Tyler later told police she stood in the hallway, covering her ears and humming to block out the sound of her mother's dying struggles. They then did not kill themselves. Instead, they adjusted the thermostat to slow decomposition, packed a bag, and fled to a San Francisco hotel, where they used Joanne's credit card for room service. Among their belongings was a suicide note and the film Donnie Darko, a movie about a troubled teen who navigates a tangent universe. For them, it was not just a film, it was a reflection of their own deluded reality. Tyler, the mastermind who manipulated her older boyfriend, ultimately took a plea deal and testified against him. She was sentenced to 15 years to life, while Stephen received life without parole. The case is a harrowing study in manipulation, but also in the terrifying power a teenage girl can wield when love curdles into obsession. 10. The Barbecue Murders, Marlene Olive. And at number 10, a case so grotesque, so utterly remorseless, that it remains the benchmark for teenage depravity. This is the story of the Barbecue Murders, orchestrated by 16-year-old Marlene Olive. Marlene was adopted by James and Naomi Olive, a well-off couple living in Terra Linda, California. The home was a war zone. Marlene was deeply into drugs and the occult, and she clashed violently with her mother, Naomi. She found a perfect pawn in her 20-year-old boyfriend, Chuck Riley, an overweight, insecure drug dealer who would do anything for her affection. Marlene didn't just want to run away, she wanted her parents gone. She meticulously planned the murders, drawing diagrams for Chuck. On June 21, 1975, she set the stage. She left the back door unlocked and went shopping with her father, leaving Naomi alone. Chuck entered and bludgeoned a sleeping Naomi to death with a hammer. The plan went awry when James returned home early. Chuck shot him 4 times in the kitchen. Now, with 2 bodies, they faced a grisly problem. Disposal. They wrapped the corpses in bedding, loaded them into James's pickup truck, and drove to a public park. There, in a barbecue pit, they doused the bodies in gasoline and tried to burn the evidence. The fire failed. A park ranger discovered the charred, gruesome remains the next day. Chuck, easily broken by police, confessed everything, painting Marlene as the mastermind. The public was horrified. Chuck was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. But Marlene, because she was only 16, was tried as a juvenile. For masterminding the brutal slaughter and attempted incineration of her own parents, Marlene Olive served just over 4 years in a juvenile facility. She was released at 21, her record sealed. She has lived under a new identity, drifting through life, occasionally arrested for fraud. She has never shown public remorse. The barbecue murders stand as the most chilling example of a teenage girl's capacity for pure, calculated evil, and a shocking failure of a justice system that allowed her to walk free. From the silent bedrooms of suburban homes to the dark depths of the human psyche, these stories prove that the face of evil is not always a stranger's. Sometimes it's the one you least suspect. It's the sister, the daughter, the best friend. If you found this exploration into the abyss compelling, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the crimes that defy explanation. Thank you for watching. Stay aware and stay safe.